write a program that displays the following shape, which is an arrow. We need a for loop, nested for loop. If we look at it, we can see 1, 3, 5, and probably 7. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it's odd numbers. That's what we know so far. So we'll start with the outer loop, which is for I in range, let's say 8, and we will print caret. Got this one. Okay, what if we multiplied it by I? What happens? We get this. Alright, what if we want to get the odd only, the odd numbers? We can check if I is an odd number. So we can use the modulo operator and we can check it by the remainder of I divided by 2 equals 1. And we'll get only odd numbers. So now we have something. We have at least the upper part, but it doesn't look right. So if we add a space here, what happens? Nothing. If we add a space here, still nothing. Okay, what if we used f string, f braces, and the caret, we multiply it by I, and then we add padding of 10, what happens? Okay, we have a triangle. That was easy, right? How do you print the bottom two ones? We can check if I is bigger than, let's say, the last two ones. We can print the same one. Let's see what happens. That's not great. Sorry. We should print it without multiplying it by I. And now we get 1. What if it's equals? Still not great. The easiest way is actually printing it twice. I mean, it's enough, I guess. So what we did is we added the center padding. So we pad them in the center and with 10 padding value. So that's why this one is centered. You can see the empty spaces between them, and that's why everything looks perfect. There's another way to do it, which uses 2 nested for loops, and we wouldn't need to print it twice. It is this solution. I did it yesterday, and this one actually works without printing it twice, but it uses 1 extra for loop, which might n squared, the time complexity of it, because we have 2 for loops, nested for loops. So if you really care about time complexity when printing arrows, don't use this method, but use that one. This one is more efficient. At least it's n if we have a function and we pass in the number inside here, and we figure out what happens here and whatever. And we update this value to something else, probably like the value n minus 2. So to make it into a function, we can do it this way. Let's call it print arrow, and let's take n, and let's go in a for loop, and with the range, it's gonna be n. Where am I? I hate Python notebooks. And n minus 2, change the number 6 to n minus 2, and the range n, and we can print arrow, and we pass in 8, should work. Yeah, the same thing happens. And if we pass in a bigger number than 8, it might break, but no, it didn't, which is great. Okay, it will break on bigger number, obviously, because the padding value needs to change. If we update the padding value based on the parameter we pass in, which is an integer, type integer, just so that we know what we are passing in. And now everything will be perfect. It doesn't matter how big the tree becomes or the arrow. The padding keeps getting updated. And yeah, this is how it works. We updated the padding with the n so that when the n becomes bigger, the padding becomes bigger or more, or the padding increases as n increases. Let's change it to 10 and see the difference so you will understand. That's why it will break, because we have a fixed value as padding. And now when we update it to the dynamic, when we pass in, we get good padding.